This is Andy Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by David Price over Zoom. David, first and foremost, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Very well, very well. Keeping really well.
It's good to hear. Now, this is the first time we've spoken for a while, and certainly during lockdown. So, how have you found these past 4 or 5 months?
Do you know what? At first I was shitting myself, to be honest. I got a bit scared of everything what was going to happen, but it was more fear of bit of just what was around the corner for everyone, as far as how if life was going to change unrecognisably for everyone. Everyone will lose their jobs. There's going to be food shortages, all that at first, because there was a lot of fear getting spread and a lot of false information. But obviously, trying to stay safe and hoping that everyone around me and who I knew was okay. So at first, it was a bit worrying, and then, like anything, you just adjust to it, don't you? And you get used to it. So initially, I was just keeping myself ticking over, keeping training, things like that, and in the garden and everything else, but it just weren't cutting the mustard for me. It was in hindsight now, looking back, it was a shit time for everyone, obviously, but for myself it was crap. Boredom, nothing to do, and then the last few weeks I've been busy again. I've been busy on a project that I'm doing on a house, like renovating a house, and it's just keeping me busy and getting me out the house, and I feel like a different person, to be honest. So the last few weeks, like everyone else, though, has been getting back to normal, and here we are now. So I think we're over the worst of it, hopefully.
I mean, when you look back to kind of November, December, when we first heard about the virus, nobody obviously knew how severe it would become. But could you ever have imagined we would have found ourselves in a lockdown where many people kind of didn't leave the house for however many weeks or months?
No, it was literally something off a film, wasn't it? It was mad. But I've been looking at pandemics over the years. I've just had a little look, and it seems to happen every 50 years. There's a pandemic. We've had the swine flu pandemic and other things, but big pandemics. There was the Hong Kong flu in 1968, and it killed 4 million people. But it didn't really hit these shores because people didn't travel as freely then on airplanes and things like that. But 4 million people died in 1968, and I didn't know that. That didn't get mentioned, and I think it comes round in cycles, and hopefully this is the only one in our lifetime, because it's not cool, is it? There's not only the health implications, it's everything that comes with it, and the world's fucked at the minute. And although it seems to be recovering and people are getting out and about, I think it's being falsely propped up. They're saying the economy is going to crash and everything else. I don't know. I'm interested to see what's going to happen in the next few months, and hopefully everyone will be all right. But it has destroyed a lot of people's lives. Loads of people losing their jobs and things like that, and obviously people getting sick and dying. It's like something off a film. You didn't see it coming, did you, at all?
Obviously, you mentioned kind of how it comes about in cycles and what have you. This, it's obvious that it is happening, but are you one of those? Are you a bit of a conspiracy theorist at all? We've obviously seen some people come out thinking that it isn't a kind of actually in front of us. Others who are kind of putting on the government, all sorts of things flying about. Are you a conspiracy theorist, David?
No, not really. I find most conspiracy theorists are big pot smokers. A lot of conspiracy. They smoke a lot of weed. Major conspiracy theorists, and they have a lot of ideas. Because I've got close mates who are like that. But I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Although I don't dismiss everything they say. And as far as the virus is concerned, I just don't know how they can come from someone eating a bat. It's just they've had bats for millions of years in China. Well, not millions, thousands of years in China. They've been eating bats for thousands of years. So how come all of a sudden, as a virus that only a bat can have, mutated into something a human can have? There's a lot going on that we don't know, isn't there? We're not privy to the sensitive information. We all get our own ideas, but it just doesn't seem to add up to me. But you know, it's like a super virus, isn't it? You can have it without knowing, you know, and not show a symptom, but you're still spreading it. It's like the perfect virus, isn't it? Really. So I'm just still make sure to stay safe. That's for sure. Don't want to get it.
Let's obviously move on to kind of a boxing talk now. You mentioned towards the beginning of the period of lockdown, you was training in your back garden and what have you. You was doing, you know, whatever you could to keep yourself fit. What could you or couldn't you do though in comparison to kind of a normal, you know, gym routine that you would have had?
I was just doing like bits of running, bits of kettlebell training, things like that. So I couldn't obviously punch anything. And I've had a shoulder problem for a while now, so that just doesn't seem to be solving on its own. So I couldn't done a bit of shadow boxing here and there. But to be honest, Andy, it's like I can't train well unless I'm training for a fight. So I can train, but I'll just go through the motions, and that's why when I see people going to the gym and putting a proper shift in after they've been in work 9 till 5, I take my hat off to them personally, because it must be so hard when you've got I'm not, I don't want to sound patronising, but it must be so hard when you've got no real target to train for. From my own experience in comparison, you know, so I'm just going through the motions, and I'm not getting the same endorphin kick that I'd get when I'm really absolutely going for it and training for a fight. So I was trying, and I was like, it's just like pissing in the wind. Really, it didn't really get going. And then after a while, it was like, oh, I'll have a couple of days off, and then I'll have a week off. And then I don't think I've done anything for 4 weeks. But that was when I started getting busy doing other things. So like I said, I need to have something to aim for, and it's understandable after doing it for 23 years or whatever I've been doing boxing, you know. But I think it is important to try and get out of that mindset a little bit, because I need to develop good habits where when I have retired, I do need to keep in the gym and keep in shape, because it's been that much of a part of my life for that long. Do you know what I mean?
Has there ever been kind of a period where, when you reflect on some of the things that have happened in your career, for example, when you go back to what happened with Tony Thompson and finding out afterwards of the test that he failed and what have you, when you look back on it all and you consider kind of how that would have mentally affected anyone, not just yourself, if anyone who was in that position, to know that he was obviously on drugs for that fight and he was able to beat you with that. Is it hard for you to mentally to kind of look at the sport now and to motivate yourself, knowing of the wrongdoings that have gone on in your fights previously?
At one point it was, yeah. At one point, it was when it was more raw after finding out these things. But as time's gone on, you know, I've got no. I don't really spend time thinking about that type of thing. Every now and then, I might see or read something that might trigger a thought where I do think about something that might have happened early on in my career, and you know, I do have little phase in me. Like the other week when the lockdown started, I had a little period where I was being a little bit nostalgic, a bit melancholy about earlier on in my career. Now I'd love to go back and be in that situation again, and that's just probably a form of depression, if anything. You know, if you spend a lot of time thinking about the past and feeling a bit sad about it, obviously that's a little bit of depression. But that was a few months ago, and it was probably something that triggered that as well. What I'd seen, like an out fight or whatever, and that's normal for boxers, I'd say. But the stage of my career now, where especially when the last 2 years, the sport was good to me, and I can't really look back now and have any hard feelings. If I'd retired maybe 2 years ago when I was considering retiring, then I probably would have had a bit of bitterness. But now I'm pretty content, to be honest. So, although all what happened, it was just all how it was supposed to be. And for one reason or another. You know, it's just happened, and here I am now. But like I said, I can't have too many regrets.
When you do look back to kind of your earlier stages of certainly your professional career, you had such a brilliant amateur standing, but going into professional ranks, there was a lot of excitement around you. There's a lot of expectation and hope, as there are about many people who are in the similar positions to yourself. What would you, if you could put it down to whatever, what would you think that you never quite achieved what other people thought that you would do?
Do you know? A combination of a few different things. I think management, you know, managing and picking opponents will have played its part. You know, obviously you talk about the Tony Thompson fight. That was a silly fight to have taken, but that was a lot. You know, I had a lot to do with that myself because I had the final say, and I agreed to take the fight. But he'd only just fought Klitschko a few months earlier. He was a tall, awkward southpaw. He'd only been beaten by Klitschko twice, and won one fight, like a 3-round fight or something. So, but at that time, the momentum I had, I believed I was going to beat anyone, and I was flying. But look, the reality is, if it didn't happen then, it would have happened at another stage, and it's now when I'm at this stage. I didn't have the punch resistance to go all the way and become a heavyweight champion of the world. The best fighters, the best chins are the ones that don't get it, and you know, I'm not that elusive style of fighter like your Tyson Furies or people like that, and I probably got caught too easy, and when I did get caught, I you know, for a heavyweight contender, probably didn't have the punch resistance to go all the way, but you know, enough to reach the level I reached, which was a decent enough level. I'm talking in past tense here, like my career's over, and it may well be. You know, I don't know what's going to happen, but yeah, I'm at the stage now where I can admit that to myself. Where, like I've said before, you spend years trying to fight criticisms and you know concepts of. Sorry, I used to. You spent years trying to resist or argue with you know criticisms or you know glass jaw, this that. Got no heart. I have got heart. You know, people think because of being exhausted in a fight or two and being stopped by the referee that you're lacking bravery or courage. But if you're exhausted, there's just no coming back, and especially when you know. In my cases, I've been either, you know, grossly overweight for the Christian Hammer fight or the second Tony Thompson fight. People knew what went on before that fight and how I felt heading into the ring. The last thing people had mentioned is courage or bravery or art. So I'd probably put it down to, you know, a combination of things, but openly admitting if I had a better punch resistance. No, you like your Ache and Tepper fight, even though it was on the juice and whatever else. You know, it could have been different. I think so. But then there are fighters with weak chins who can win a world title, but they've been managed better than what I did, going straight into rematches. When the first defeat with Tony Thompson, it took a lot out of my soul, that fight, because I was like, I defined myself as a person through boxing at that time, and that was all taken away from me. So I felt that made me less of a man type of thing because I'd lost my unbeaten record. And I've said it before, boxing's like age when it comes to defeats. You know, you think you're getting old when you're 30, but I'm 37 now, and I'm like, fucking hell, I weren't old when I was 30. You know, and it's like with defeats, I'd lost one or two fights, and I felt like I've lost twice. You know, it's terrible. And then now I think I've lost 8 or 7 or 8 fights. And I'm like, fuck me, if I'd have lost 2 fights now at this stage, I'd be fighting for world titles. So it's all about perspective at the time, and it's like if you knew now, if you knew then what you know now, we'd all be better, wouldn't we?
When you just admitted that you can now kind of reflect and be a bit more open and honest with yourself. You mentioned you don't have that iron chin that other fighters do have. When you do step into the ring now, or when you have, say, over these past few years, does it play on your mind psychologically? Is there kind of a wariness about you? Do you think, if he catches me, is it going to affect me severely in the fight? Does it play on your mind?
No, do you know it never did. It never did. It was just because boxing's boxing, and if you're not willing to step into the ring and accept the fact that you may be knocked out, then there's no point being a fighter. And I'd be stepping into the ring more so with, focusing on what I was going to do rather than the opponents. Although in the back of my mind, I was always aware that I may get caught in here, but I never went in thinking, oh, these only have to touch me and I'm going to get knocked out. But I go in thinking, right, I have to be switched on here, because if I get caught, I can be hurt. And that's been the case since I've been an amateur. I've been put on my ass as an amateur. So once that happened for the first time, it was like, right, you need to stay switched on, and it's always been in the back of your mind. But if I've been in with your likes of, like, the Povetkin fight, going into the Povetkin fight, I was coming off a 6-round win against Sokolowski, so I weren't exactly in the form of my life, and I was going into that one, and I went into that fight a little bit, I went into that fight a little bit, not so much worried, but a bit wary of potentially getting, well, and it happened. But once the bell rang and I was in the fight, that weren't the case. You're fighting on your adrenaline, and you're fighting on instinct. Then you're not worrying about anything like that. It's more so in the build up to the fight, and on the couple of days and on the day before the fight.
You mentioned, obviously, you don't know what's what with your career now, and you said that it may well be the end of it. What have you thought about, though, during lockdown? What's your thoughts with regards to your career? How do you see the rest of it playing out? Do you think we have seen the last of David Price in the ring, or do you think we will have you entertain us once more at least?
Do you know what fight? The fight that I'd like to get would be I'd like to fight Lucas Browne. I think that's a good fight for me. It's good fight, good stage of the career fight for both of us, really. And it's a very winnable fight. So, I seen it when him and Dave Allen were fighting each other. I seen an interview, and Kugan Cassius asked Dave Allen who was going to fight if he won, and he said, "Oh, Eddie said to me, if you win, you can fight Derek Chisora or David Price." And Dave Allen said, I'll have David Price, please. And Lucas Browne laughed as if to say, yeah, me too. Now, I took care of Dave Allen, no problem, and now because I just stuck in my head this, and I thought, right, I want to fight the two of these, and put, I remember little things like that. Something similar happened as an amateur with two Russian heavyweights, one Belarusian, one Russian, and one was Islam Tameziyev, and I beat him in the first round in the Olympics, and his mate was Magomed Abdusalamov, and I beat him in the Olympic qualifier. So I kind of they got the comeuppance off me for kind of disrespecting me, and although what they said was true, they probably right to say they'd fight me rather than Derek Chisora. I didn't like it when I seen it, and I thought, right, I've done the jobs I've done. So the Lucas Browne one, yeah, and not just for that reason. I think it's a fan friendly fight.
What more do you feel you want to achieve in boxing? What do you think you can still achieve in the sport?
Do you know what? it's just to continue to compete. You know, I'm not going to win any. I'm not going to go after the title because it's a different time now. There's young contenders coming through who are on the rise, and you know, unless something mad happened, I haven't got that in my mind, a title. But then the thing is, if I did fight, let's say Lucas Browne, and get a good win, good knockout victory or a good performance, then the buzz is back, the feel good factor's back. Now I had that after the Dave Allen fight, and I had the momentum because I had three nice wins on the spin. I had a good performance. The easiest fight, and made it the easiest fight in my career, if not what, you know, probably one of, if not the, against someone who was being talked about fighting for a world title or whatever. So the momentum I had, I kind of then cashed that in for the Derek Chisora fight because, you know, I took the fight at late notice, but it was too good to refuse. So I gave that in. I took the fight, took a chance, and it didn't pay off. But in doing so, I gave that momentum away, and that feel good I had, and that confidence, that buzz I had back, and that went then because I'd lost again, and I was disappointed, and you know, it just hasn't come back because obviously I haven't been in the gym. I haven't had the chance to fight, so I'll know more. I'll know more when I've been in the gym for 2-3 weeks, and it's starting to get tough. I'm starting to get sore, got niggles, and you know, I've had injury after injury in my career, and got this shoulder problem now. I'll know then if I do decide to go right, push through it, or nah, do you know what? I'm gonna go and do something else. So that's when I'll know more. But right now, I'm just like, you know, I'm looking forward to watching Joe Joyce against Daniel Dubois as a fan, and not looking at it thinking, oh, I might fight one of these and this and that, because right now I'm probably sat here not considering myself as a boxer at the minute because nothing's happening. So there's no point in me wasting energy thinking what's around the corner, who am I going to fight. I'll just concentrate on something else for a bit.
I mean, are there any names other than obviously Lucas? You mentioned Daniel Dubois, the Joe Joyces and that. Are any of those that you would be interested in? I mean, Daniel in particular, people know that you're a very tough hitter yourself, you're a big hitter yourself. Daniel's known for his power. Would that be a fight that would interest you?
But it depends. It depends what's in it for me, really. Look, he's a young lion, and he's a fucking real force. So for me to fight someone like that, it'd have to be worth my while, obviously, and that's the business we're in. But at the same time, I'd have to get my arse into gear for a fight like that, which it would for any fight. But yeah, so I wouldn't rule it out. Although I have been offered that fight in the past, and it was after the Dave Allen fight, and I was like, you know, what do we gain out of this? You know, the kid's a bit of he's a bit of a warm order, and he's an animal, and but that being said, it only takes to land one punch, and you know, let's not underplay my own boxing ability when I'm performing well. You know, you just don't know what could happen. So it's been that long since I've actually hit a pad or a bag. I don't even feel like I can box much anymore. But give me a few days in the gym, you'll probably hear more of a different tone in me way I'm talking about things, and that it's just you forget how capable I are sometimes. Use it or lose it, isn't it? You've got to use it or you're going to lose it.
David, obviously you mentioned, you're looking forward to being able to watch fights a bit more as a fan rather than thinking, oh, am I going to face this guy? Could I face that guy? So I just want to kind of put a few to you and just get your thoughts on if we was to see them or ones that have been announced. Start off with one of your past opponents, Dave Allen. It doesn't seem likely, but there was a lot of rumours and some talks about him potentially facing Hughie Fury. If Dave and Hughie fought, what are your thoughts on it?
I think Hughie Fury is a different level to Dave Allen, and I think Dave Allen's probably aware of that himself, which is why he probably hasn't took the fight. You know, I think Yui Fury's only have to land 5 or 6 clean jabs around, and he'll win every round. That's without doing much else. So yeah, as interesting as it is for like general boxing fans, for me, I think that'd be a foregone conclusion. But why not? Why not, like, you know, keep them both busy and keep them in, and if it's there, do it. But you know, I do rate Yui Fury as well. He's a lot better than people give him credit for. You know, I had him beating Joseph Parker, and I was ringside working for BBC Radio 5 Live. I had him winning that fight. He gave Pulev a tough fight, and I've said it for years because I've sparred Pulev quite a bit. He's one of the very top heavyweights in the world, and he's gonna give Anthony Joshua a tough night. And Yui Fury got a big cut, didn't he? And still went to 12 rounds and hit him with the right hand as well. And then Povetkin kind of, like, you know, outworked him. But for such a young man, I think he's going to have a quite a big part to play later on in his career in the division. So, you know, I think he's a really good fighter. But he's another one that's been mentioned about me and him maybe fighting, but nothing's ever been, you know, spoken about officially. But I've seen people saying they'd like to see it, and, you know, we're both under the same management group, but that could be something further down the line as well.
Obviously, just away from those two, another fight is Martin Bakole versus Sergey Kuzmin. Sergey Kuzmin, a past opponent of yours once again. What are your thoughts on that one?
I think Bakole is another one who's judged off onesie feet against another good smaller heavyweight, Michael Hunter, who's very quick and nimble. I think Bakole is, I think he's top drawer again. I think he's going to have a lot to say in the division. Big man, and and he's got a great work rate, great engine by the looks of it. Kuzmin, obviously I lost to Kuzmin in you know, different shit circumstances really, and it's frustrating, the Kuzmin fight for me, because I took that at short notice again, but was carrying injury going into it. But I took the fight because I had to take the fight to get what was off the back of it, and which was more fights. You know, I negotiated more fights, because before I got offered that fight, I had nothing on the horizon again, and it was struggling to find out what was going to happen. So everything that happened, like with the Dave Allen fights and the Chisora fight, probably come off the back of me accepting Kuzmin fight. So I don't regret that, but I do, because I know for a fact if I was prepared to fight him, I know for a fact I'd stand him on his head, I'd box his head off. I think Martin Bakole will stop Kuzmin.
Once again, just to keep working through them. Whyte Povetkin, we're obviously getting closer to that Bakole Kuzmin on that undercard. Dillian Whyte versus Alexander Povetkin. Dillian recently split in from his trainer Mark Tibbs as well.
Yeah, not ideal timing. But I think Povetkin's quite some way past his best now, and I saw that in his last fight with Hunter. I thought he scraped. But he, do you know what he is? He's one tough man. He looks hurt, but he just grinds it out. And he's got that left hook. He hurt Hunter with the left hook. He knocked me out with the left. Well, he knocked me out with the right hand, and then woke me up with the left hook, because I was out on my feet. And then the left hook that put me down kind of woke me up. But that left hook, it's going to be a trade-off, isn't it? I think Dillian's going to be too young and fresh, and be interested to see what weight Dillian comes in, though. He probably do be coming in a bit lighter against Povetkin. He's got good hand speed and puts his shots together well, and he's a really accurate puncher. But I think Dillian will win on points And I think he'll have Povetkin hurt a couple of times, but he'll hang in there like the old dog of war he is.
Then the one fight which has got a lot of people excited for is we're hoping to see it in 2021 Fury AJ. But obviously you mentioned Kubrat Pulev earlier, that the rounds you've shared with him in sparring and the work you've done together. And obviously Fury has to get past Deontay Wilder in a trilogy. How confident are you that we will see Fury AJ next year?
From a boxing point of view, yeah, I'm very confident that they're going to beat the both respective next opponents. I'm confident AJ will beat Pulev. Won't be easy. Pulev's a tough, strong, experienced man, very fit, great engine, good jab. And look, Anthony Joshua, even though we beat Andy Ruiz in his last fight, he's lost that aura of invincibility now. He's been shown, the world's been shown he can be hurt, he can be beaten. And just because he's won the rematch, you know, fighters are going to get in there fancying it. And Pulev will be no different. But I think Joshua will come through that one. And I think Fury will have. I don't think Deontay Wilder will be the same fighter after what happened in the last fight with Fury. And so I think Fury will do the same number on him. So as far as boxing is concerned, yeah, we should. But then it's obviously everything else that's involved. Although they're saying it's all been agreed, you just don't know, do you? So I'm confident we'll see them in a position to fight each other, that's for sure.
Obviously, Dillian Whyte's been mandatory for as long as I can seem to remember now for that WBC title. Do you think we will see Dillian step in first, or do you think it's right that we will see Dillian face the winner of Wilder Fury 3, or do you think we will see Fury AJ take precedence over the top of that?
I think the governing bodies and the promoters and the TV companies are going to do whatever makes the most money, aren't they? And that's obviously Fury versus AJ. And it's sad to say that because Dillian Whyte has well and truly earned his shot. And even he's been mandatory or number one contender for that long. And even in that position, he's been taken on proper tough challenges. Your Oscar Rivas, you know, Joseph Parker, but that was a big fight in its own right. So, you know, anyone would have took that. But he's took banana skin fights where, although he's obviously being paid well for them, but he could have just sat on this position and treaded water really ticking over, but he hasn't. He's hungry, Dillian Whyte, and he deserves a shot, definitely, and hopefully he'll get it.
There's always a lot of talks about kind of titles in boxing, and the WBC, they have that franchise title, they have the normal titles, they have interim titles and what have you. What do you make of kind of the amount and the volume of titles that are currently in boxing?
I think from a boxer's point of view, it's good because, you know, it creates more opportunities for the fighter. Whereas, you know, if fighters were just fighting non-title fights on these shows, it wouldn't have the same prestige. Look, it's nice to take a belt home to your kids or your family and things like that, even if it isn't a world title, you know. And as far as that, I'm talking just like little intercontinental ones, things like that. But as far as the actual world titles are concerned, if it was just one world champion, then it'd just be like, you know, eliminators after eliminator, and it wouldn't have the same prestige. The TV companies wouldn't be paying the same money to televise it, and the fighters wouldn't be getting paid as much. So I think it's good for the fighter, but for the fans, everyone just wants to have one champion, don't they, per weight class, and you know it glorifies the championship even more. So from a purist point of view and a fan's point of view, I can understand that. But as a boxer, I think it's better that there's more titles available because it creates more opportunities for the fighter, and it's a short career. And you know, we all want to earn as much as we can before getting out with our faculties intact.
My final question to you, David. Obviously, you come out probably just over, I think it was just a week ago, certainly recently, Jarrell Miller failing another drugs test. He failed multiple before that Anthony Joshua fight, which was then cancelled back in 2019. Firstly, David, what was your reaction to it, especially knowing that the past kind of events that you've had with fighters who have gone on to fail test themselves?
Yeah, you know what? I weren't surprised. I just seen it and I was like, well, I got to a point with drug testing in boxing a couple of years ago where I stopped caring about it, to be honest, because I was becoming too emotionally invested in it because of my own experiences. And I thought, there's no point in even worrying about it or caring about it because I've got no control over it. So I stopped giving a shit. And when I seen that, I wasn't surprised. He's a piece of shit anyway, isn't he? He's failed twice before. So, you know, if someone needs to keep pumping the body full of shite to try and make himself feel more of a man or a better fighter or give himself more of a chance, then they're in the wrong game and he should be chased out the sport. But because of the way the sport is, it's not going to happen. So, you know, we'll see him again at some point, unfortunately.
What punishments do you feel should be put in place for people who do fail performance-enhancing drug tests?
Yeah, it's a lifetime ban, isn't it? In his case, definitely. You know, twice is bad enough, and it's when you're knowingly putting anabolic steroids into your system, which could potentially endanger your opponent's life. It's like I've said, there's that many grey areas with boxing. Prescription painkillers might make you fail a drug test, or an over-the-counter stimulant that was in a supplement or whatever, like has happened to innocent fighters. But when they're doing shit like that, they've got to throw the book at it, and it's a lifetime ban. But there's that many jurisdictions in America. There's that many governing bodies. You know, they'll find a way to fight somewhere. It's just how it is in this sport. It's a little bit of a wild west, isn't it? I suppose if there was one governing body like that, that's probably one positive. What you're saying there about the world titles and things like that. If there was one uniform governing body like there is in football or athletics, that's it. The rules that, but you know, we could go and fight in Kentucky or somewhere like that. If he's banned in Vegas or New York, they'll just find a way around it.
Was you surprised, David, that obviously towards the beginning of lockdown and when the virus started to come to show how severe it would be, that certain governing bodies and what have you announced there would be no testing during the period?
Yeah, I seen the outrage about that, but I thought, you know what? There's no fucking gyms to train in anyway, as far as I know. So if anyone was juicing then they will have had to have had their own facilities to do it. And if they were, then shame on them, because it was a serious time, and they may well have been. I don't know, but like I said, whenever I read anything like this and see the outrage and that, I think I didn't really get much support myself from anyone really, no less the British Boxing Board of Control. You know, my fight with Erkan Tepe when I got knocked out in the second round by him, whether it was down to drugs or not, he cheated and he was on anabolic steroids, testosterone or something it was called. And the European Boxing Union ruled that fight a no contest, which would have meant I still only had 2 losses on my record, and the British Boxing Board wouldn't follow suit. And then as a result, the EBU didn't rule it a no contest, gave him the win, but just, stripped him of the title. So I felt like I got hard done by that many different people when it comes to that I just thought, nah, I don't give a fuck about drugs in sport. And although, like, I've got my opinions that people should be banned, when I read things about it, I just think I'm not that interested anymore about that.
David, we will leave that there now then. And I will leave you to enjoy the rest of your evening. I think I've taken
Cheers, mate.
as long as what I said that I would do, but I appreciate you giving time up,
How
mate.
long does it take? That's my fault that I just start talking and
No,
can't stop.
David, honestly, it's been a pleasure and I appreciate you giving up some time.
Cheers.
Stay
Thanks,
safe.
mate.
And before you go, what would you like to say to everyone who tunes in to watch our interview?
Thanks for being interested. I know I'm still quite a big interested in the sport of boxing, actually, because anytime I do say something or there is a story about me, I keep, I've got to keep myself private, but I think people still are interested and I do appreciate that. And yeah, just watch this space, see what's next, and keep following Boxing Social. It's a good channel.